You're listening to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. Here are your hosts, Fran and Tom Kinezic.
We just had a 3 days of snow here in New Jersey, and it kind of made us think, hey, what can you do right now? Now's a slow time. And we kind of, when we discussed, I just said, now it's going to drive me crazy. But in rooted discussions, we discussed that sometimes winter is the best time to get things done.
Oh, yeah.
You're busy, but it's a different kind of busy. So we thought, what are some winter gardening tips? Not just for New Jersey, just anywhere that experiences, it doesn't even have to be if you get snow. We thought we would give some tips that would help you in your winter garden.
Yeah. I guess unless you don't have winter, then if you're in Southern Florida, we're not helping. We're not helping you much with this episode.
No, but that's true. We're helping, I think, a good portion.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, and even though one thing before I forget too, I wanted to say it earlier and I kind of got sidetracked. Even though we're in New Jersey and we bring on a lot of New Jersey organizations, that's because that's who we deal with and we're familiar with. We hope to expand that. We've had some international and national organizations, and we hope to expand that out to make it more relevant to everyone. So even people in the Northeast can see what they're doing in other parts of the country.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but right now we're focusing on wintering tips. I was kind of looking out the window yesterday thinking, well, what can you do right now? And I think we came up with a pretty good list.
Yeah.
Some basics.
Yeah, definitely.
You want to go? You want to give the first one or you want me to give the first
I'm going to let you give the first one.
So, and this has been a topic for us for the last, a few times in the last couple episodes. Now is a good time to remove invasives. Sometimes when plants are in leaf, like I would have honeysuckle coming in to bushes and you can't get in, that they're so dense that you can't really see with all the leaves what's going on. Now with everything defoliated, like I have a lot of greenbrier coming up in some of my hedges. And it's really easy to get in there and identify. You can see those thorns now, and you can tell the branching structure. You can see the difference in the color of the stems, and it's easier to get in and dig that out and really get rid of it. So now's a good time for spotting invasives when they're dormant, where you can really, if you go in and you're able to cut them back or dig them out, now's the time.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a great opportunity when you can really focus on it. When it's spring and summer, there's so many other things you can be doing in your garden now. So that's a good thing that you could do now.
Yeah, and even scaling that up a little bit in the next couple months. Again, here in the Northeast, we're going to be seeing one of the first things that blooms is the Bradford pear. Yeah, and that's just a great way to identify that plant because it's one of the only things that's blooming at that time of year, and a great time to identify it, a great time to get rid of it if you're able to.
Completely.
Yeah. One of the other things that you definitely can be doing right now is planning ahead. Just thinking about trying to remember if you're really on top of things, you were keeping notes on what you wanted to do in your garden last year. We said, oh, you know what? There's a little hole in the garden right here where a plant I put in didn't fill out quite enough, or I always wanted this plant. Well, now's the time to kind of go back over those notes or go back over what you recall from the last year and start to plan and think about what plants am I going to get? Where am I going to put them? Where do I have a need? What's done? And kind of get it all in writing now, or at least get it in your brain space so that you're not unprepared going into the year. You have or what was it? One of our listeners and friends, Roz Dormis, even mentioned in our Facebook group that she is already placing her spring orders. And if you let your nursery and garden centers know what you're looking for, they can include those plants in their production to increase their orders from their other vendors.
John, they kind of treat their retail like wholesale, and they allow people to pre-order so that it's ready. That's a great time to do it. Now you have the time, the availability is still pretty good, or if we haven't started production yet, we can increase production if we know there's demand for something. So now's a really good time to do that. Another thing that we thought of, we talked about how important leaves were. We had a couple listener questions about leaves. So did you save your leaves or you're composting them? Now's time to kind of spot check to see If there's holes in the garden that need to be touched up or fixed up, now is the time to make sure you're taking care of that. So if you saved your leaves and you have some areas that could use a little bit more to help for these colder temperatures, we're going down in the teens, I think, every night next week.
Yeah.
So now's the time to really make sure that you took good care of your beds, your gardening beds.
Take notice, especially in the snow. It's really easy to see. But how many birds do you have? Are there a lot of birds visiting your garden? If not, maybe it's time to think about what are some shrubs or plants that you can put in to provide some forage for them over the winter. They don't necessarily need bird feeders and bird seed if you have the right plants there to hold them over.
I was going to say, bird feeders aside, if you have bird feeders right now, especially in the snow, you have birds.
Yeah.
But if you didn't have bird feeders, is there enough food? Is there enough burying things? Is there enough cover for them? Do you have birds active in your garden? So now's the time you would know, especially with the snow. So just take an inventory of that, and if not, start thinking about what you can add to that garden to make sure you have the birds taken care of. One thing that I'm not always great with are your pruners sharp? Are you ready when spring comes? Now's the time you can really do maintenance on all your tools. Make sure you're sharpened.
Do you have the right tools?
Yeah.
Maybe you need new stuff because those clippers were a little bit sticky last year and you've had them for 20 years. Maybe you need a new pair.
Yes.
And you didn't get them for Christmas, so you're gonna have to go and get them yourself.
Yeah. And sometimes off season you get better prices on some of these things. You can get last year's model, something like that. So
yeah. And if you're it's on something on your honey-do list and you're not necessarily the one, now's the time to put off buying those tools at the same time, because then you can kind of save that weekend and say, oh, I don't have the right thing to do it, so I can wait till next weekend if you really want. I've done that a lot.
Me too.
So another thing you can start now, and something we're starting in the nursery, if you're growing from seed, now is a good time to start, at the very least, stratifying your seed, if not even seeding into trays. It's just that time of year where the day length is starting to get a little longer. The light is starting to get a little bit more intense. If you have a heated space, or even if you have grow lights and can make a heated space, now's a good time to start those seeds so you have a bigger, more mature plant going into your planting season.
Some of these seeds need winter stratification. You have to really plan for that. And sometimes there are some seeds that need 2 cold periods and 2 warm periods. So just kind of know that. Do a little bit of research on the seed. The seed that you get isn't always stratified appropriately.
Yeah.
So just make sure you kind of know what the seed needs for stratification. You're not going to find everything, but you can find a good number of things.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what some of these groups are for. If you're a member of our Facebook group, throw it out there and say, I have this seed. Can anyone tell me about the stratification? I'm sure the combined knowledge of that group, someone has had experience with it.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that you can also do is assess damage plants from winter storm. There may be some pruning you need to take care of, or you may want to collect some of this wood and keep it for later in the year to put out to help with wildlife or other insects. It doesn't hurt to have dead wood in the garden for habitat.
Oh yeah.
So keep some of that, like identify what would be good, what things may need to be fixed or planted or moved, because of damage. So that's, something may be getting damaged every year, and you may say, this isn't the best place for this. I may want to move it.
Yeah.
So now's a good time to do that.
Yeah. And the last one is, if you're really good at this, is start designing your own garden for the upcoming year. You might have a new project. You might have a tree that you want to start planting around, or you have a bed in your yard that you want to redo. Well, now's a great time to do that plan. Again, we kind of even mentioned on it earlier, is you're going through that thought process, you're planning it out, you're figuring out what you're going to need to order, what you need to get. And well, why not do it right now? Especially during a snowstorm like we had yesterday. You're sitting inside already. Well, get yourself a cup of coffee and a piece of scratch paper and just kind of plot out what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's great advice. Who knew? Who knew we could come up with that many great things?
Oh yeah.
So there's plenty to do. There's always plenty to do. And it's obvious in the spring and summer and the fall when you're doing it. But the winter's not as there's always some things that you could do to fine tune. And now's a great time.
And that's, Fran, I got to be honest. I actually took some of these from my wife, because so with our other side business, Pinelands Direct, we started an email newsletter, and for the first of every month, she puts out a checklist of what you need to do that month.
Oh, that's great.
And I was like, oh, this is perfect. It's already planned out. It's a nice little graphic. I'll actually post it in the Facebook group, just because I find it really helpful. And I found other email lists I've been on where they kind of do that, and they give you a month by month checklist. Okay, this is what you need to do this month. This is what I need to do next month. And it keeps you on schedule. It keeps you on task. And yeah, maybe you get a little bit behind, but you're not in June saying, oh, I wish I did this back in February, because now I have to wait till next February to actually do it. So
no, that's all great.
So keep your eyes out. I'm going to post those in the group once we're done with this episode.
I think that's wonderful.
Thank you for listening to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. Remember to like, share, follow, and comment.